Welcome back, everybody, to the Creative Moments Season 4, Episode 5. We are in, yet again, a new studio space. Same people, though. Yeah, studio.
Space.
Whatever.
Someday, maybe you'll have a...
Someday. Maybe Season 12 or something like that. But I'm Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer, photographers, writers. We are creatives, and we started this podcast to provide value to you guys about our creative lives and how it relates to you. So let's jump right into it.
Sorry, I'm behind. My fingernail is still...
It's okay. I have my own injury. So.
Yep.
All right. So today we are dropping more value. I feel like our podcasts lately have been just dropping fire all over. We're talking about 3 pieces of advice that we would give to creatives if they wanted to start making a living with whatever creative endeavor they are pursuing.
And I'm away here, ironically, I was like, your advice is going to be based on success. Mine will be based on...
So I'll say
maybe
what
not.
to do, and he'll say what not to do.
Like, I was just like, okay, yep.
We'll not divulge into that.
Okay.
Currently, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Okay, I'll go first because I'm gonna go in like reverse order. Okay. So number 3. I'm gonna give it 3 and go to 1.
Okay, so we're doing like...
No, that's what I was saying. Okay. I was just like, okay. So my number 3 part of advice, and again, I was really thinking about that as driving over and stuff, is like, and thinking about how my advice really is like not is on the not as a successful type of thing, and was thinking about that and have mentioned it before, but my number 3 advice is to be honest about why you're doing what you're doing. Now, and what your dreams are, what your goals are, because on the everyday aspect, you only have so much time and energy. And energy is a big aspect that we kind of take for granted, or we understand more like when you had your like traditional little bit everyday job and how you felt after that and like wanting to be creative. I mean, and so you only have so much time and energy, and you can have a big list of goals, but again, because you only have so much time and energy, you can actually only accomplish or go after so much at one time. And thinking on that, I know we've talked about it. I've mentioned my frustration, but I'll live with my frustration. Just being honest, my number 1 goal is to provide for my family, to create a household, to give my kids opportunities, and then my own personal writing goals and stuff, kind of fall, they're still in the top 5. I mean, I've stayed up late, I've done things, but I will live with that if my family is taken care of, my kids have opportunities, that we do, fun things, and I still chase my dreams. I mean, I still do it, but for me, my number 1 goal, and that affects, and why it's important for you to be honest. If you want to make money, you want to be a bestseller, great. Like, I don't care if people make a ton of money or like, cool. I will applaud you. I will give you support, and go after that. But understand that takes more time. That takes more energy, and your other aspects of life will be affected. So you have to be honest. You have to be true, and you have to be ready for 24 hours of time and only so much energy to give, and work within that realization. And so that's my 3rd advice, is being honest with what your goals are and being aware of how much time and energy you actually really have in life.
Yeah, so a couple things I want to touch on there. So the energy part is a huge part, because yes, everybody has the same amount of time in a day, but not everybody has the same amount of energy, and depending on what project you're doing, could it spark more or less energy. I part of the reason I started waking up so early in the morning was because I had energy, the most energy, like as soon as I would get up and I could channel most of it into just one thing because there wasn't anything else going on. But then, like, there'll be days where I'll have like a morning shoot and evening shoot, and those just kind of exhaust me enough that like in the middle of the day I just don't have I have all the time, I just don't have the energy to really continue working on that other stuff in between, knowing I just got done with a shoot that creatively worked me, and then I have another one that I have to work up for tonight. So even though I had like 12 hours in between the shoots, sometimes I just need to just relax for the day and then get ready for the shoot tonight so I can be not just creatively burnt out for the day energy-wise.
And energy is drawn from other people. It's from setting up. I mean, it's an important factor that I don't think people really honestly pay attention to. And that's why you should be in good shape. We've actually talked about that a little bit.
And then the other thing was the honesty part, because your true intentions, whether you try to hide them or not, will show through in your work and to the people you work with. I know not a ton, but I work with a ton of great people. But there are people that I've worked with that, like for weddings or something else, that their true intentions are not what they try and display to people. And it maybe the client doesn't always notice it, but as another creative, you can tell based on how they shoot, how they direct, how they do this, what they're actually trying. Like, are they actually trying to serve the client, or are they just trying to get a portfolio piece that they want for their Instagram website, whatever. So I think that's a great piece of advice. It was kind of on the marks of one of mine, so I'll see if I can flip that. But okay, my number 3 is kind of some stuff that I've already talked about in previous podcasts, is take every opportunity that you can, especially if you're just trying to start out making a living. All these opportunities that I have been blessed with, I did go out and get a lot of them, and then once it was like, okay, he's going to go out and take them, more just started coming to me because people knew, like, oh, he'll go out of his way to do this. He'll make time for this opportunity. And that's a big reason of how I got my name out there and started getting those clients, because I still really I don't say no to a job, really. Like, I always just at least try and hear it out, see what the idea is, and then most of the time I'll go ahead and execute on it. And so taking every opportunity, not only just to make more money, but just to round out your skill set, because you'll have a lot of different jobs coming at you. I've done a ton of different work that requires a ton of different kind of knowledge of different things. And so then by the time you feel like you can maybe take the jump into full-time freelancer, full-time creative, you have all that foundation of those opportunities. You have the client base built up, you have the skill set built up, and then you can start picking and choosing what like kind of jobs you want to pursue more or pursue less.
And thinking, because we talked about that too a little bit, is taking the jobs also have taught you what you don't want to do. Yeah. Like, no, I don't want to, or like, I don't want to be ending up, this is my photography career, or this is my graphic. Like, and so even though you're probably nervous, especially the first time, but that builds your toolbox, your skill set. And again, like I said, I think it teaches you also. I don't really have. I'll still do a job. I'll do it well, but because as you said, to where you can get to where this creative aspect of your life is your job, you got to get there. Yeah. And you learn a lot of things through taking the opportunities.
Yeah. And so, like, to give an example, so weddings are not my favorite thing to shoot, far from it, but I enjoy shooting sports and stuff. So I made sure that throughout the fall, my Fridays and Saturdays are kind of blocked off for sports. I could have taken weddings, and that would have not been as fulfilling as blocking those off for football games or volleyball tournaments, softball tournaments that I could get booked for. And so then, because I've shot weddings and sports, taking both those opportunities, now I kind of know, okay, if I want to enjoy and not get burnt out and keep doing what I want, I know how to schedule it and what jobs to take and not to take.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3, is take every opportunity you can, especially starting out, just to build up the foundation of what you want your business to kind of look like.
Yeah. So number 2 for me is a general one, and there's each person has to deal with it specifically, is be prepared and handle your finances. There's, yes, sometimes you have to take a risk financially. You have to invest in yourself. Maybe you have to take a loan. If you did number 3, you're being honest about what you're doing and you know what your goals are and stuff that'll help you in that area. And you do have to take some risk. You'll have to buy equipment. You'll have to have income coming in and stuff. And the finance umbrella, there's lots of things. And one of the advice gave you, was like kind of plan every month what your bills will be and stuff like that. Know that, and any extra stuff put into savings. So, because jobs come and go, you don't have a steady income. And that's one aspect. A lot of creatives, if that's your full-time job, is not really a steady income unless you're working for a company or, some things.
Yeah, you're on a retainer
or something along that line. And so being savvy in budgeting skills and stuff, and also not getting in over your head. Nobody really knows or remembers, way back in the day, I actually started a production company to where my goal was to, make memories and take slides and stuff. And I'm kind of that, what's that company? The Memory Box? No, they take VHS tapes and they
digitize them
and stuff. I was able to do that. But we invested and got a loan, and the company itself, because I was being a dad, I was teaching, it caused a little bit of a hardship. It just was all of a sudden a bigger, that I was right before that started. Walmart started to do it, and all of a sudden, like, it just seemed like I started wanting to do that, and then all of a sudden around me,
the corporate
world saw it too, and you got to take risk, yes, but you can't cripple yourself. It was a hard couple of years there as we dealt with trying to juggle that. Because I was doing highlight films for Centura and stuff. I was, So take care of your finances. Be prepared. You got to handle income. You got to handle debt. You do have to buy stuff for your, if you're going to be a writer, you might choose to hire an editor or somebody to do your book cover. With my audio, my Stargazer EP and stuff, I hired PR to do some of the production and the music. I had to invest in that. So finances will keep you moving forward to your goals. There are going to be rough times. You do have to sometimes take a risk. But if you say yes to a lot of opportunities and you can balance that until you are established and have a more steady kind of income or opportunities and stuff. But starting out, don't just go get a credit card and max it out and think.
I have not. I've been in full business for, I think, 19 months now, and I have not upgraded my equipment since the first couple months, just because it's, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still very young in this process, and so it's like I want to build up as much foundational income as I can, so that if I do need, like, if these lights go out and I have to get new ones, I'll have that money instead of just, I'll get a new lens here, new computer.
Be
new
impatient.
this.
Be impatient. Know what your goal is. Understand what you can handle, what you can't. Because if you are spur of the moment, you're gonna find yourself in financial trouble, and then you can't be creative because the stress of the finances affects your energy, which affects your creative output.
Yep, and that expedites burnout. Other.
Yep.
Was your production company Jamie Bullhauer Media?
No, it's JSB Productions.
Should have capitalized DCBP. DCBP.
Yep.
Yeah. That's obviously a huge part. Is manage your. I have a budget sheet every day, and I have.
Hey, you did a video on that.
I did.
You did?
Yeah, I broke it down. I might link that. You can check out my budget sheet, see what I pay myself.
Because there are boring parts to this that you need to handle.
Yep. Yeah, like emails, budget, that stuff. Yep. That's not always fun, but looking at that budget gives me an idea of, okay, where will I be at the end of the month? Maybe I do have some extra income that I can upgrade the computer or do something like that, instead of just not knowing, just kind of being like, oh, I made $800 today. Okay, that's enough to buy this. And then not knowing, oh, maybe I needed that $800 for my licensing, my music license or something like that. So that's a huge part too. Okay, my number 2 is establish your connections and then maintain those relationships. You hear this all the time. It's almost a cliche now. Like, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. I think it's more closer to 50-50 than people really say. I think it very much is perceived that connections is like 90% of how you're successful.
Oh, yeah, not that much.
And in some industries, maybe it's closer on that side of the pendulum. But there are, especially in my world, repeat clients are my best clients because there's some high schools where I'm like their one-stop shop for everything media, and that's super fulfilling because it reassures me that I'm doing a good job and stuff. But 2, it does kind of stabilize your income. If I know that I'm already going to get booked next year for that hype video and for that poster and for that that senior class, those basketball games, that sort of thing. So that gives me a little bit of stability, but then those connections and those relationships that you kind of keep and maintain lead to more clients down the road. My biggest advertising, and I've always said this, is word of mouth and referrals. I don't use Facebook ads. I don't have billboard. I literally, my social media and then word of mouth is my only advertising. And so when people talk about, oh, hey, we're looking for a hype video guy, do you know anybody? It is so easy when they like you and they know you do a good job for them to just immediately refer you to everybody they know. Yep. And that's really helpful in my senior world, my sports world, all aspects, keeping those connections, because all these senior moms talk and they talk to the junior moms, and the junior mom, it's just a huge part of my business that I somewhat rely on for new business and inbound leads and things like that, because I don't know who I don't know. Yeah. And so there's a part of the business where I just have to kind of wait for people to come to me based on my work and referrals. And so by keeping good connections and maintaining those good relationships, that helps my business just kind of stabilize its income and keep moving forward.
Yeah. And so it connects to my number 3. That's time and energy, though, too. Yep. Keeping up those relationships and connects to take the opportunity. Okay? It is.
It's all connected.
It is all connected in that regard. And yes, people sometimes feel like it's all your connections. That's all. No, because you don't build connections without having the skill set.
You're not going to, even if you're great to work with, if your product sucks, you're not going to get referred. I mean, that's just
which actually is kind of connects to my number 1. And this one is pretty straightforward and stuff, but we've talked about a little bit, especially in the poetry world and stuff. My number one is take pride in your creative work. And that's a little bit umbrella, but taking pride means that you work on your skill set, you study, you step out of the box at times, try new things, taking opportunities. In a very saturated creative environment, okay, we have NFTs and we have Instagram poetry, and we in the writing world, people say you don't read books anymore, but yet there's a ton of, there are millions of books published a day, and people still actually do read. It just, anyway, there is so much content. There's so much content. So if you, at the base, at the beginning, are proud of what you have done, success and stuff and things like that will come as long as you know what your goal is in that regard. Okay? Some poems do just kind of come. I get that, and that's the magical muse what we're talking. But other ones I have worked at. I have studied the poetic forms. I have been working on my slam poetry, stepping out of that box in the last 2 years. But I think when you see or read my work or do it, it's not just thrown together. It's well put. There's a lot of work behind that. My blog post and stuff. And so at the end of the day, even though yes, I'm frustrated to a degree to where my writing career has gone, but there's lots of reasons why, and I live with it, and I still, though, I'm very proud of everything that I have done. And I kind of take pride in getting my kids involved when I can. Your sister did the Stargazer video with her anime, and that helps build that pride and stuff. And so my number one is work hard at your craft, whatever it is, if it's being an artist, a welder, whatever. Don't just assume you don't need to learn, you don't need to strengthen skills and do those things. And if you're happy with it, I do believe in some form or way, success will come, especially if you know why you're doing what you're doing and what your goal is. And yeah, I do think most people do succeed.
Yeah, and I think pride and gratification are super driving factors to keep you just keep going. Because if you're just kind of throwing stuff together, kind of putting some stuff out there, and you don't really have pride in it, it's harder to kind of have that inner motivation to really keep going. And I always think of it's literal for me, but if you think of yourself creatively as a brand, like you are a brand, you are Coca-Cola, whatever, everything you want to put out there is representing your brand and who you want to be as a creative. And so when you kind of think about it like, this poem falls under my brand, is this something that I want to put out there or want to make, it almost makes you work just a little bit harder, because you're like, oh, I don't want to put something out there that's crappy and people think, oh, Jamie Bullhouse, JSB production sucks. And so having that pride in your work can kind of keep driving your content and keep you moving forward that way too. Yeah, and even though I do not make any money on any of my writing, honestly, just the other night, the gratification, I really had worked with one, and I was in a Twitter space, The Jam, on Thursday nights, and I read a poem that was a little bit outside the norm, even though it was fundamentally very poetic form based, like rhyme scheme and everything, but it was something a little bit different. Dude, the room was silent. They were like, what was that? Like, it hit, and
And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna. Honestly, that poem itself is actually in one of my books. Isn't really going to make me money, but I know that I did a good job because the consumer, the reader, the other person that's a part of the equation, which we've talked about before, was affected by it. They were amazed. They were because it was a narrative. It told a story, and they just was like, "Wow, that was that was pretty cool." So
yeah. Okay, so my number one, and this is like, I go back and forth a little bit on it, but I'm just because I like money.
We all do. I mean, honestly, we all do.
Yeah.
Like, money makes life just a little.
So clients, you can kind of turn this off. Undersell and over deliver is my number one. That is something that I really think has kind of helped me build up such a large client base. Especially if you're starting out, you have to do it with an even bigger gap between your your probable actual worth versus what you're charging. In all honesty, I could charge a lot more for a lot of the jobs that I do. A lot more.
Yep.
Because it's going to sound so arrogant, but my talent level, my skill set, and my knowledge, I believe is pretty in the upper percentile of at least other media, the media industry in this area. I work really hard at it. I put in a lot of hours. I calculated my hours the other week, and by Tuesday I was already at 40.
Yeah.
So like, I put in a lot of time. I really do a lot, but on the flip side of the coin, your value is what the market will pay you.
Yeah.
And in this area, this like central Nebraska area, I would lose clients if I charge more because it's not in their budget. And you can kind of go back and forth between take less jobs for higher paying jobs means less jobs because then you have more time, that sort of thing. But at the same time, if there's not the market for enough high paying jobs to match what the like more lower paying jobs, then it doesn't really matter if you price hike and then you don't get enough to even break even.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the financial side a little bit, but then just on the, I guess, moral side, I always want my client to be just like at the very, very least satisfied with what I provided them. But I really want them to feel like they got the better end of the deal with what I did instead of, that was kind of like, that was good, but it was still pretty pricey. I want them to just be like, wow, he went above and beyond. I've had a couple people I've heard from say, I went into that shoot and I kind of thought it was going to be awkward, but you're so easy and like so relaxed and just made it easy for me. And I'm like, that's part of the value that that some people do, but I don't put into a price. I don't put me being easy to work with as like, that's $50 on the invoice. And so by underselling and then over delivering, you create, again, a relationship and a connection that you can maintain, which leads to more opportunities. It's all connected here, but just by over delivering that, it just helps repeat clients. It helps you establish like your business, your brand under a good name, and it's fulfilling for me to send off a gallery and have them be like, this is amazing, like this, like the price is never really, that was too expensive for what you did.
And it is a little bit of balancing because you don't want to, you mentioned at the beginning your gap could be, but you also you can't drop yourself out of the equation, and especially depending on where you are, because and I have a book recommendation for you later. Okay. If we're in New York City or something, oh my God, that's different. Yeah. here jobs alone are not just everyday things. And so you have to. That's part of the financial understanding of things. And like you said, you've only honestly just under 2 years of being in business. And so you are still you got to be patient, but you're still building the reputation. You're still building the knowledge base and the word of mouth. And, in 5 years, something different. You might have your own shop. You might have to have people help. I mean, and so that changes the finances at that time. But to a degree, I agree also, because like all my books on Amazon are all part of Kindle Unlimited. So if you buy that subscription, you can read everything of mine, and they pay by the page. I mean, it's just, but I would rather, because I do have a full-time job, and finances doesn't mean finances aren't tight. I'm just saying, I would rather have somebody enjoy my work. I'd rather know that it's sitting on their bookshelf, or that they've read it, and that they felt, something with that poem, or recognized, and because that's a part of we talked about that. One of my goals is not to make a ton of money. It is just to be known as a poet. To be seen and go, are you, like, that is the altruistic goal that I have.
And that also, like, kind of goes to the finance part that you talked about. I don't spend a ton of money on pizza. I do, but that's personal income. On other expenses, and like get new here, get new this, get that. Because if I did, I'd have to drive the price up to be able to maintain that level of business. And so again, being patient, managing your finances helps you be able to do that, to make that gap livable, because you're not just spending every dollar that you get. And then like it leads to people tipping me quite a bit of money, and think like I got a $200 tip the other day, and I was like, okay. Because like maybe that was closer to my actual value, and maybe they thought that, maybe they just thought that it was so, like, they know that I'm going to do such a good job that they felt, I'd love to just help them out. And so by doing that, like starting out, my first family photo job was $20. I charged $20. That's not what I charge now. But that gap was it was pretty large, but still I was still just learning, building up the foundation. And then as your skill set grows, your price can kind of raise with it, and then you can slowly just kind of start to close that gap. But I don't ever want to be, I'm pricing more than what I'm actually worth, because, and that goes back to be honest about your why and stuff, because I would rather have the person be impacted and be happy with their product than make what I know I'm worth on it and have them maybe not be as happy with it. So value. This podcast drops value. Okay, we just gave you 6 tips, our advice on how to start kind of making money, maybe making a living, or just figuring out where you want to be in the creative realm, no matter what it is. Obviously, you can take this through a lot of different paths. These are tips that you can use no matter what creative industry you're really going into. We didn't really dive into any like specific technical advice or any of that.
No,
so
that might be another podcast. That would be a good one.
But we hope you guys enjoyed Season 4, Episode 5 of The Creative Moment. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find them. Go ahead and like it, comment, let us know what you'd like to see.
Because we don't charge anything. Like, it's just,
value, price. Price is 0, okay? So with that, thank you guys for watching as always, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.